Today, as part of the Florida East Coast switcher upgrade, we're going to replace the incandescent light with, if I can pick it up, LEDs. So check this out. Stay tuned. Hey, I'm Jamie, and like I said, we're going to replace the incandescent lights that came in the Proto 2000 switcher with LEDs. I know I keep talking about this DCC upgrade we're going to do on it, and we're getting there. The DCC controller is actually on back order, and I should have it in a few more days. So until we get it, we're going to do some other things to it to get everything prepped and ready for it. So one of the upgrades I wanted to do again is replace the incandescent lights with LEDs. So using LEDs, there's a couple things to keep in mind. You need a LED, which is this guy here, and you need a resistor. For the DCC controller we put in, the basic track voltage is going to be around 14 volts. Based on 14 volts, really a 1K ohm resistor would be sufficient enough to keep the LED from burning up. The LEDs by default are 3 volt, unless you get some other color. The colored ones are different, but I'm talking about the white LEDs run at 3 volts. And again, you need the resistor in there. Without the resistor, it's just going to go pop. And you get a spark of light once, and that's it. And then the smoke comes out, and it just doesn't work anymore. So let's start looking about putting these in. The LEDs are also, how should I say this? It has an anode and cathode, basically a positive and negative lead to it. If you get them backwards, it doesn't light up. So it's critical that you get the correct wiring to the LEDs. This particular LED, you can usually tell the longer lead, if I can get it down here and show you, the longer lead should be the positive voltage, and the shorter one gets the negative. And you can actually see in some of these, it's more difficult to tell with the camera here, but you can actually see inside of it, and the bigger lead that goes up in there takes up the most space, again, is the negative, and while your positive is the shorter one inside. On outside, the positive is actually longer, and your negative is the shorter one. And again, you do have to have a resistor on it. It doesn't matter what side you put the resistor on, it just has to be in series with the LED. So, how I wire these up, I'm going to start with the negative side, and I'm using some 30 AWG wire for it, and it's basically a thin wire, single thread or single strand. And I'm going to take my handy dandy wire wrap tool and get it in there, and I'm just going to twist this around. And what this is going to do is actually wrap the wire around the LED connector like so. And because this lead is longer, I don't need it anymore. I don't need that much of a length to it. I'm actually going to just go ahead and cut it off. And I'm going to use a piece of heat shrink here in a minute to make sure it doesn't short out. And I'm actually going to take it over to my solder station and solder it. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and put the resistor in it. And I'm going to do a very similar process with it. Let's see. And I actually might have to get my other tool for that. And I'm just going to bend it at an angle, and I'm going to repeat the process on this thing. All right, and that's actually good enough. So I don't know if you can see in the video or not, but I have my negative lead connected straight to the LED, and I have the resistor put on with the wire wrap tool that wraps the wire around it. And I'm just going to cut off the excess. All right. And then we have something like this. And I'm just going to go quick to my solder station and drop some solder in this so to make sure I have a solid connection that's not going to come apart. I'll be right back. All right, and we're back and we have it soldered in. And for the next piece, I'm just going to run some heat shrink tube down to protect the connection so it doesn't rub against any metal or short out. And I'm just trimming this up just a tad. There we go. And I'm just going to grab another piece of heat shrink. There we go. We have something that ends up looking like this. And what I'm going to do is take this back and use my hot air gun on it and shrink it down. All right. And once we have that done, we put the final wire in. And again, I'm using red for the positive side. Just as long as you can keep track of it, you can use any color that you want. I prefer darker colors for the negative supply and more bright colors, red, orange, yellow for the positive. And I just strip the wire, and I'm just going to repeat the same process on this side. For the resistor, this is not as deep as I thought it was. We'll use my other one. All right, we have it in there. I'm just going to rotate it around. Now we have the wire secured to it, and I'm just going to do the one last solder to secure the joint in place and come back and put another piece of heat shrink on top of that, and we're good with this light too. All right, and there it is. I'm just going to clip off the excess. Run my heat shrink tube down into it. Alright, and I'm just going to shrink it quick and I'll be right back. Alright, so we now have our completed first light for the locomotive. This is actually going to go up into the cab area. The rear light that turns on when the locomotive is running in reverse. For the front one, we're going to repeat a very similar process to it. Again, using my LED here, locate the negative supply here. It's the shorter one. I'm going to use green for this particular one on the negative side. Actually, I don't like that idea. I'm gonna stick with my color coding that I started with and use brown for the negative. I don't need it as long since it's actually going to go up front. And I have my wire. I'm going to strip it. Wrap it. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing with the resistor. I'm going to give it a little bit more spacing on the resistor than the one that goes into cab, because this one actually needs to lay low. So if you see here, I'm coming out probably 1/4 of an inch there, maybe less. Put it in. All right. There we go. And again, you don't necessarily have to use a wire wrap tool. I just prefer it because it's a lot more efficient for me. But basically, you just need to get the wire wrapped around the connector. And now I'm just going to trim everything up. All right, there we go. I'm just going to solder this. All right, with everything soldered up, I'm just going to put the covers on it. The heat shrink tube, actually, I call them covers, heat shrink tube, whatever you want to call them. Here's my first one. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and put the wire in on this side. I'm going to use blue for the positive. There it is. I'm going to cut it. All right. Solder that. Have it all soldered up. And I'm just going to go ahead and put the heat shrink tube on that side. All right, just want to make sure it's covering everything, and I'm just going to shrink it quick. All right, and we have the one that's going to fit into the front of the locomotive done also. Now, just to make sure I'm not completely crazy, although I am, I'm just going to give these a test quick to make sure that they work, because it's nothing too worse than finding you've done something and put it in your locomotive and it doesn't work from the get-go. So I'm just going to strip off the ends of these wires. There we go. I'm going to get my power supply up and going here. I'm testing it around 15 volts. Excuse me, 14 volts. And there's my positive, and there's my negative here. And there we go. We have a nice glow coming from our LED. And actually, you can kind of see that maybe on the video. Compared to the white, you can see this one's more orange, more of an oranges than what it is a traditional Kohler LED. I'm going to test my other one. All right, and there that one is too. All right, good job, Jamie. So we have our light slate ready, and the next process we're going to go through, we have a repair job to do inside the cab that the glass is actually broken off from the supports. We're going to fix that first. I'm going to use some UV glue for that. Then we're actually going to go through the process of mounting the LED inside of the compartment, and we're going to seal up the cab, and that will be that for the next video. So I appreciate everybody watching, and stay tuned for the next video where we actually start mounting these inside the locomotive. All right, I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.